Hey everyone, welcome back to Right Media Group Chronicles. Today, I've got Rochelle Rakach. She is the founder and CEO of Rakach Design, a full-service agency doing strategy, design, and development for nonprofits and impact organizations. Here's what makes her different. She's built a practice around accessibility and human-centered design, and she's doing it while raising a 6-year-old, scaling to a team of 12, and literally driving to every state in America. Today, we will be talking about how she built a business that makes the world more accessible and more profitable. Rochelle, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Would you mind to introduce yourself in your own
Yeah,
words and what your agency does today?
that was an amazing intro.
I think it's amazing what you're doing with your 6-year-old because
Oh,
I think he's coming along with you to basically try and
yes.
achieve every
So
stage in America.
little context there. So he is 6, almost 7. And when he was born, my husband and I made it our mission to have him visit all 50 states. We were just in Utah, which was state 19, and we were out checking out the salt flats. If anybody's familiar with the salt flats of Utah, it's a crazy experience, otherworldly, and accidentally ended up over the border in Nevada. So we call it our state number 19 and accidental number 20. So yes, he's coming along just fine.
No, that's great. Is he enjoying the trip? I mean, I'm sure it's sort of
Yeah,
lengthy as
yeah.
well, isn't it? And it can be
It
can be
it can be, yeah. We're trying to handle some of the easier states as he's younger, because some of the further states like Alaska is going to be quite difficult. So I want him to get a little bit older. He doesn't remember some of the first states, so we may have to do a do-over of a couple
probably,
things.
yeah.
But dad and I remember. So isn't that important? Aren't we gaining the experience?
Yeah. Yeah, end of the day, you have sort of the picture to make up for it as
Yeah.
well. Like if he
Yeah,
does forget, you're like,
absolutely.
no, you were actually here. I'm not making it up.
I have video to prove it.
I think it's a nice hobby to have outside of work, and actually, you're able to do this because of the agency that you built.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So a little bit about the agency. So I was a in-house corporate designer for many years. That's how I started my career. And when I moved over to agency, the more agency model, I didn't last very long. I only made it 6 or 8 months, and then I was laid off. But I noticed a lot of cracks in the foundation, if you will, things that were sort of the norm, if you will, and not really the way that I wanted to work. For example, the whole we know better than the client. We'll do all the work and then just show it to them at the end in a big reveal. And I'm like, that doesn't make me feel like I'm bringing them along as a partner. There's no investment there. There's no give and take and no investment in the strategy. So when I went out on my own as a freelancer, that was my whole business model. I really wanted to build something that made people feel like they were part of the process. So I've always been human centric. As things progressed and as time went on, I'd say about year 8 or 9, my work was outpacing me. At this point, I had a child and I didn't want to work nights and weekends. I didn't want to hustle all the time. So I came to a crossroads of, do I build a we or do I scale back? And I leaned in full force into the we started with just myself and one other designer and a virtual assistant. And by the end of the year, we were a team of 9. And by the end of the next year, we were a team of 12. And
Oh,
that's sort of
wow.
where we've been. We're a happy, very scrappy team of 12. I wouldn't trade it for anything. Even today, I'm going to hop on a plane and head out to see my family, and my team has my back. So
Yeah.
albeit not planned, it's one of those, it's great to have a team again. It's great to be surrounded. Freelancing can be such a lonely and weird place sometimes. And how we is great.
Was it easy to build up the team that you can actually rely on?
I probably didn't do it the most graceful way. I had a lot of mentors along the way. A lot of people tried to talk some sense into me. My thought process here, right or wrong, my thought process was I don't need someone to offload the things that I don't like doing or don't know how to do. I need more me. I need more me in the day, because ultimately the clients are coming to hire me. So I
Mhm.
hired designers first. So we had like 4 designers at one point and no admin staff. Now, my mentors would be like, "No, no, 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 no. You hire for the things you want to offload." My thought process is, if I am going to own the business, if I am going to run the business and I'm going to know the business inside and out, I have to get uncomfortable, or I have to get comfortable with the uncomfortable.
Mm.
Meaning, I want to learn the bookkeeping. I want to learn the contract writing. I want to learn the client management, the project management, the task management, the budgetaries. I want to learn all of that first so that I know in my brain how it all functions, how it all works together before I bring somebody else in to take it off my plate. So, albeit not the most efficient way of running things or ultimately the correct way, I'm doing air quotes for the listeners, more the correct way to do it, it was the way that made the most sense for me. Do I
Mhm.
regret it? No. Could it have probably been easier? Yes. Ultimately, the game changer was bringing in a project manager for a whole herd of creatives, a whole herd of cats for her to manage, but having somebody who wore the other side, like wore the hat, was the other side of things, was more the structure to all of our creative, was really what changed things and made things more like stable.
I love that explanation there. And I loved your approach. It must have been harder in the beginning, but
Oh,
then
yeah.
you're making it easier for yourself now. I've had time and time again, like whoever comes on as a guest, emergencies happen for your team.
Yes.
And
Yes.
if you offload it to somebody, you don't even know the process yourself, and there's
Right.
deadline, you can't cover their ass because
Nope.
you don't know the process.
We hired so many redundancies, people started to think that there was something wrong with me. But I was
Wow.
open and honest about it. I told everyone who started because I got a lot of, "Well, if they know how to do it, what happens to me?" And I'm like, "No, no, no. You cover each other. So
Yes.
because you know design, you may be a senior level designer, but you're my backup. And I am the production artist backup. And the production artist backup is this other person. And we all have a redundancy within the agency so that if an emergency were to come up, because we're all human, right? And when an emergency comes up, we have somebody that we can lean on. We can offload somebody's workflow to somebody else, and the client doesn't know any different. Like they don't, it's
Yeah.
seamless.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So there's no sort of hiccups along the way. I even had one agency owner. He unfortunately had issues with his, I think he had a heart attack or something whilst he was high. Bless him. And what happened was he had all these clients and he was sort of the face of the company. He was like client
That's the
meetings,
thing.
everyone. And suddenly he was gone. And like usually you'd think clients would leave, which most scenarios they would. But actually he built a really good connection with them and they stayed with him even though he wasn't able to fill on the work. So they still sort of paid his bills pretty much. And I think it's
So
important to have a strong relationship with your
a
client.
great clients go a very long way.
Hmm.
Similarly, we had some medical things come up this year. I had a medical emergency along with my production artist. We're the only two that are well versed in the final export and implementation of the accessibility tools that we use. So we're both out at the same time. He had a heart attack. I had a more minor medical emergency.
Yeah.
So I'm stepping in and covering for him. And all the while, I'm telling clients, I am so, so sorry. Not a single person batted an eye.
Um,
I would go so far as to say our clients cared more about us as humans than the work being done. They were like, look,
wow,
we'll move
that's incredible.
deadlines, we'll figure it out, no problem. Ultimately, our projects ended up going out earlier than they even would. We had to move some deadlines around and things, but ultimately we moved everything up so that we were able to accommodate the
Of course.
workloads and things like that. But, and it worked out for the best. But at the same time, it's who you surround yourself with, right? Having clients that see humans first, not just as a strategy, but actual practice goes a very long way.
And for me, it's interesting because you're in that niche that they actually do care because it's good impact, isn't it? So I
Yes.
think they will be more human than rather somebody who's running an e-commerce product and just wants to get
I
sales.
think that that's a selling point of us, right? We are small enough to still be humans. And we're not a large agency. 12 people is not a large agency, but also we're very forward in celebrating wins and talking about hiccups and things like that. So we're putting a human face to the elements and not making ourselves a machine.
With your niche, I mean, we sort of had a
Yeah.
bit of a conversation about that last time, is
Yes.
for a long time you claimed you didn't have a niche, but then can you
Yes.
tell me a story about
Yeah.
that? And then
Of
you obviously
course.
niche down in a way.
Yeah, it's so weird. For years and years, and especially during the global pandemic, I kept saying, you don't need a niche. You don't need a niche. And all the while, I accidentally discovered a niche. So many people are like, I only do healthcare marketing, or I only do retail marketing, or I only do, like, that's how they niche down. Other designers are like, I only do print design, or I only do websites, or I only do social. That's a completely different kind of niching down. We fell into this weird space of one, we only want to work with good people. We don't want a corporate entity to make another $1 billion, be a cog in a machine, and not really making an impact in the world. There are plenty of corporates that do make an impact, but like that's not our happy place. We want to definitely make sure that who we're working with and for are actively working to make the world better. But secondly, we fell into this space of accessibility. We had a client come to us. They're still a client of ours, one of my favorite clients to work with. They're an education literacy software program that is used in schools. So they came to us and said, we want our products, our reports to be as accessible to everyone as possible.
Mhm.
And I said, well, that's really interesting. It's an area I don't know much about, but let's learn together. I'm always up for a challenge. So I had the how hard can it be, Gene? And I was like, yes, we can do this. No
Let's
problem.
figure it out.
So as I started digging into this, the more that I read, the more I discovered that accessibility is incredibly underutilized, albeit necessary. Many people think that it's costly, out of budget, needs these crazy softwares or remediations and all these other things. And the truth is, that's not at all the case. Accessibility is really about designing pieces in a strategic sort of way that allows for the end product to make sense when you're like, think of it as an audiobook.
Mhm.
If you think about every report that's designed as an audiobook, you are distilling it down in your own brain. So when you can't see something, what is most important without the clutter, without all the static? And the same for cognitive impairment. We're stripping things down. So when you think about that as a design strategy, as a marketing strategy, not only are you automatically making things more accessible and more impactful, more purposeful, but you're setting the groundwork for the work later when you get into like the physical tagging structures, the alt texting, things like that, the tangibles, those little nitty gritties that have to happen. But so many people and so many agencies aren't even paying attention to this. And it's insane to think about.
Mhm, mhm. No,
Yeah.
absolutely. We also talked about accessibility in our previous chat, and what I found interesting is you talked about accessibility, but you talked about sort of anyone who's seeing and only listening to something. If you can digest
Yeah.
it a little bit
Yeah.
more.
So this is a slightly spicy take. Some people will disagree with this take, and that's okay. Accessibility isn't necessarily about a accommodation for a impairment. Accessibility is about meeting a human in their need. The need could be a preference. For
Yes.
example, how many times have we as humans said, I'm a visual learner, or I'm a audio learner, or I'm overstimulated and there's just too much going on. There's too much sound, there's too much input, there's too much technology, whatever the case might be. Those are all still accessibility requirements, albeit they're not a disability, but they
Mhm.
are an accessibility. So they are preferences that should still be accounted for. And the beautiful thing is they're not going to implement, or they're not going to impact disability requirements. They go hand in hand. So when we think about everyone as an audience, and now I'm going to get really statistic here, and I can only speak to the United States market because I am a US based designer. That is where we work. So I don't know worldwide statistics very well, but I can tell you that 1 in 4 in the United States for adults has a disability. So when
Mhm.
we think about that in the marketing space, and an underserved sort of space, we're thinking about $1 in 4 of marketing dollars is being burned.
Mhm. Mhm.
So when you talk $1 million budgets, are you willing to set a quarter of that on fire?
Mm.
Not really. And So then we start talking about that is just disability, not preference. So when we
Oh,
add
wow.
preference into the mix, we're probably looking at a good 50-50 split here, if not more. So why not meet people where they want to be met? It just seems like good practice and it just makes sense.
And I think you even touched the example last time of a mother who's overstimulated. Like she's got her baby,
Yeah.
she's probably sleep deprived. And especially if it's a product around sort of baby or something that mother would be looking at, it's just something
Yes.
you want to make sure it's accessible as possible.
Even healthcare. So I had a similar situation. I was experiencing severe migraines. I was in a lot of pain. I had a very high fever, received some medical paperwork about a drug that I was prescribed. And not only was it a poorly Xeroxed copy that was barely legible to my 20/20 vision, but there was no accessibility there whatsoever. So how am I to have informed consent when I can't even
Wow.
access the information as a non-disabled individual? So there are situational impairments as well, not just preference and not just disability. So
Yeah.
yeah, when we talk about all of this, we're really hitting, 99% of the market, right?
Mhm.
Everybody has experienced a situation where they've been in a crowded room and they can't turn the audio on. Everybody has experienced a situation where they're in a place where they can't read something because the lighting is off. The situation just doesn't allow for that much attention. It would be so much easier to listen to it. We've all been in situations where we can't listen for whatever reason and we have to read it. Accessibility is really for everyone.
And do you have like an example of, for example, that overstimulated mother? Like what sort of accessibility features can be put in there to make it
Yeah.
easier for her?
Yeah, so one of the biggest ones that we see right now is it goes twofold. So we're really seeing alt tagging and tagging structures being ultra important right now because of not just accessibility, but the birthing of AI. So AI and all the AI models utilize H tagging, which is just a important structure for those that aren't familiar with website coding and HMP tags. It's really just a way to note where information breaks. Think of them as chapter markings. And then read order. Read order is also immensely important. Otherwise, a page of beautifully written copy would be all jumbled together. So we're seeing these as the most important things because not just do screen readers use these tools, but AI does as well. So when we have clients that come to us and say, we want to show up in Gemini, we want to show up in and the SEO, the GEO, the generative optimization, we're telling them the same things. We're telling them that the same tagging structures are utilized by AI models to parse the information in a meaningful sort of way. So when we talk about accessibility, if only one thing was done, H tagging, P tagging, and alt tagging and read order are really that through line. It is the base of where everything else is built.
Wow, okay, that's interesting.
And it's
Um,
all it's all hidden, right? You can't see any of those things. So they really do help models and things that go voice to text emphasize the most important information.
yeah, I'm wondering with accessibility, is it just the websites that accessibility can be on? I'm wondering it's funnels as well, I'm guessing because it's
It's
paid advertising.
everything.
It's everything.
Yeah. Yeah, it's literally everything. Digital media is most focused on because digital media is where we talk about like screen readers and a GEO and optimizations and things like that. But accessibility branches even into print media. When we talk about color contrast ratios, when we talk about individuals with visual or cognitive impairment, parsing information that is low contrast, meaning the difference between two colors is so nominal that if you have a color impairment, a visual impairment, a cognitive impairment, it can be very difficult to figure out what copy might say or where one line ends and another line begins because they're not able to see that color contrast. Accessibility really is not just for digital media, albeit probably the most talked about, but we're seeing it across social media from closed captioning to alt tagging to descriptive information within the post tag. but we're also seeing it.
You
It's
wouldn't
so
think so, would
rare.
you?
It's
Oh,
so
wow.
rare to be scrolling Instagram, right? And you can tell the people that are thinking about this. You'll be scrolling social media and all of a sudden you'll come across a post caption that then says like a full description video depicting such and such, and it will give you a full description for those that can't watch the video for whatever reason. So it's really across all channels and it really integrates into everyday life.
And
Even
how
my situation, even that medical situation that I mentioned is a Xerox copy. That was a physical form. Even that not being accessible has
that's more
serious ramifications.
that's more legal if I'm thinking about it, because it's like
Yes.
you said, you can't
Yes,
really sort of agree to something that you don't even know the full information of. And
exactly. But it's
wow.
still accessibility. The designer of that piece should have taken into account that the probability of how it would be dispersed, how it needed to be designed, and upping the contrast ratio so that the legibility was still there.
Yeah, talking about the laws, where's most of your market and the customers that you serve, by the way? Which sort of areas?
Yeah, so we do work across the United States. A lot of our clients just happen to be in California because there's a lot of advocacy around the education space in California, which I love those clients. They're some of my favorites. But we do work across the full United States. And when we talk about laws, so you mentioned laws, we do have some very serious deadlines coming up. At the end of this month, within the United States, we have an ADA deadline that all digital media for government funded or government organizations, including public universities, tech schools, public education, meaning like grade school through K through higher ed, are all expected to be fully accessible by the end of the month.
Wow.
The chances of that.
But with Americans, that's what I keep hearing. You guys say this is not my own words. Everyone can sue everyone for anything.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So
Yes.
in New
Yes.
York, apparently in California, if your website's not accessible, they
Oh,
can sue
yes.
you. So anyone can sue you as long as they can prove that they have this sort of disability or accessibility issues and you don't have it on your website. You'll be
The
sued.
barrier is even lower than that. There's some very prominent lawsuits when we talk about this space. One of which that is noted quite often is the inaccessibility of Netflix a while back. Netflix was sued and successfully sued. I don't remember the exact breakdown of what the award was in this case, but Domino's is another one
Yes.
where accessibility came into play of ordering online. That was a major lawsuit and a major step forward for accessibility law. I think it's safe to say, and I'm so sorry to our overseas friends, the current regime, the current situation that we find ourselves in, for better or worse, I don't think that the accessibility police are coming right now. DEI, inclusion, things like this have definitely taken a huge step back. We have seen a lot of decisions from a political standpoint being made that are stepping away from accessibility. Even the fonts that we're currently using in our government communications have been rolled back to a less inclusive and less accessible font because we're returning to decorum.
It's sort of
But
taking steps back rather than
yeah,
taking some
yeah,
steps
we're
forward.
we're we're taking steps backward, and I just wrote an op-ed about that in print magazine for our global audiences. But as of right now, we are not going to see the DEI and accessibility police coming.
Mhm.
Does that mean that we should take our foot off the gas? No. We don't know what's going to happen in the next election. I am sure that in the coming years, this will right itself and that we will see a return to inclusion. We're going to see that when authority and policing of these practices are not in place, it will fall to the public. So we're going to see way more lawsuits from
Mhm.
whether they be civil lawsuits or class action lawsuits around the inaccessibility of certain platforms or certain tools or certain situations. So when policing falls short, when there isn't someone to police these things, it falls to the public, and we're going to see a lot more of that coming up.
I'm comparing accessibility to how sustainability was back in the day. It was sort of a nice to have, but now it's becoming a must have. And you
Yes,
sort of want to be at the early days of implementing it and showcase like, oh, we've been accessible for 10 years or whatever else.
exactly.
It's the same thing. You just
It
you
is
just look
exactly.
better to your consumer.
Yeah, there's a certain amount of I was in before it was cool.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
There's a certain amount of also being able to say that I have been a good human. I have done what I have been able to do to reach audiences. My clients can say we have done when we're talking about, education advocacy for marginalized communities. That goes along with making sure that it's accessible to those communities and those individuals. It just makes sense. So being able to say that we have gone above and beyond what is required to address these individuals in a meaningful sort of way just adds credence to what they're saying.
That makes sense. It's the same
Exactly.
thing like physically, like now any sort of building or any community building is
Yes.
going to have wheelchair access, isn't it? That's
Yes.
like a must have. I remember like maybe 15 years ago, especially in my country, because I'm from Latvia, it wasn't really like you must have it, but now it's everywhere. And it's a
Yes.
similar thing. You just need to apply whether or not it's urgent right now. You don't want to be applying at the last minute.
No, and I would say that early implementation costs less than later
I
implementation.
see.
We're talking to one client, a potential client right now, who's talking about remediation, and I was like, that can be a dicey situation because when accessibility is not built in from the beginning, ultimately what you're saying is we're going to try to figure that out later, and not only is that more expensive, it can be very confusing. It can be it can muddy the waters of what you're trying to say.
Mhm.
It can be very confusing for the end user because of read orders and things like that. So when you think about accessibility from the foundation, we're really making it possible to add those pieces as we go and make it very organic. But when you have a design that just does not lend itself to accessibility, ultimately you're choosing. And
And you don't want to be urged into what you're doing as well, because you want to make sure you do the best work. You don't want to be time limited. I'm wondering, how
absolutely.
do you connect with potential prospects? How do you create that educational value for them to realize that this is something they really should be thinking about?
So a lot of it is exactly what we're doing right now. I have a lot of really amazing conversations with individuals where I can really shed light on the why. Because when people think accessibility, they think of it as a nice to have. They don't think about all of the other important parts of it or the other places that accessibility plays a role. I can't tell you how many times a potential client has come to me and said, look, we now need our materials to be optimized so AI can farm. Like, cool, cool. I see what you're doing, but you should be thinking about humans before machines. It's
Yeah.
more important to be accessible than farmable. But the long story short here, and the good news, bad news is it's the same thing. So when we make things accessible to individuals, we're also making it accessible to the machines.
Oh.
It's just the we should all be trying to be better humans. We should all be trying to reach audiences that otherwise are left behind, and
Mhm.
that's really the important.
I want to dive into the strategies a bit more, especially in the agency world. It's always how do I keep on top of mind with my potential clients and customers? So you're saying you're doing this by joining podcasts, being a guest on them, getting that education out there, that realization
Absolutely.
of why. What other things are you trying or doing
Yeah,
for specifically?
so I do talk to a lot of our clients one on one and look for strategies in which we can help them become more accessible, be more inclusive in their marketing strategies, and where we might have opportunity to clarify materials. We're currently in talks with a community college network, and we're like, oh, I totally see what you're doing here, but your course catalog, did you notice, is not particularly accessible. That's a problem for any student that may have a visual or cognitive impairment. They can't see what courses are available. They can't readily access that information. So they're already at a disadvantage. And then we're adding more disadvantage to being able to access the course loads. And that can be really eye opening for individuals that don't think of it that way. We're also working with a lot of nonprofit organizations. One of my favorites is the Brain Injury Association of America, who are looking to champion brain injury as a preventable and very important point of conversation within federal protections and accessibility. So, the idea that an individual can have a brain injury at any time, and they're actually quite common, that can cause a situation where we have a temporary need for accessibility requirements or a permanent need for accessibility requirements. And no two brain injuries being the same, those accessibility requirements may differ across their entire community of
Just to
individuals.
complicate it more.
It's so crazy, right? But they're so incredibly common. And they're even working on preventative measures in classrooms and things to help education for students to understand brain injury and how wearing a helmet can be a very impactful form of prevention. Well, even that campaign has to be accessible because you never know what student might have already suffered a brain injury, already have a cognitive impairment, have color blindness, any of that, any of those situations where we want them to feel that they have access to that information as well.
Yeah, I can see you have so much passion, for working with your clients. You're just like, oh my God, this is what we're doing. And we're
This and
doing our
this
best
and
to
this.
go for it. No, that's great. That's beautiful. It's lovely that you have a passion behind it and you're excited to see
Always.
what else you can do.
I will say that accessibility was not something that I ever saw myself being passionate about. This
Okay.
is an accidental passion of mine, but it has kind of become my whole personality, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
I even find myself at restaurants, I might be out to dinner and be like, I'm judging this
Mm.
menu. This menu is not accessible.
Yeah, maybe you can leave a note for them, like how they can imprint it, and then leave my
Nothing like
details below.
Nothing like making something as seemingly small as accessibility and being an advocate in this space and making it my whole personality, but it's truly what I'm passionate about. I
Yeah.
truly believe that marketing only succeeds when it can reach an entire audience. And
Mm.
without people that have a voice using it and saying, this is what is needed, no, I will not do this inaccessible option. I will only do it this way because it is the right thing to do, is how we're going to get through this, right?
Has it always been easy, particularly with marketing agencies? They seem to be always tumbling. So, for example, cold email used to work back in the day. Most of the time, they say it doesn't work anymore. What sort of lead generation strategies had failed before for you that you tried?
Mm.
And unfortunately, they didn't work as well as you expected them to.
I think that we are a unique unicorn.
Hmm.
We don't look for leads. We don't have
Okay.
sales. I am sales. So, as the owner, I'm it. What I will say is genuine passion for the work that we do, showcasing the work that we do and the impact that it has, and having amazing clients that we can partner with who feel just as strongly about us as we do about them has been all we've needed. We are only referral based. We don't have sales. We don't go out and cold call or cold email or have lead generations. We don't do any of that. And I'm really lucky in that space.
Yeah.
I think that it says a lot about how we run our agency and how we continue to push the narrative forward on accessibility because our clients keep coming back and they keep referring their friends.
So now what I'm going to ask you then, if you feel like you've really tapped into that referrals, how can somebody tap into their referrals or their networking effectively? And how can you sort of promote yourself to their potential people they know that might be interested?
Yes. So, three things. One, find the thing you're passionate about. It doesn't matter how trivial it may seem. Accessibility sounds so trivial on the surface. It has become my whole personality. When you find something that you're truly passionate about, you will glow. It's insane. To be authentic. I tell people, I mentor many designers. I mentor people through solopreneurship and starting a freelance career. I say authenticity is the most important thing. You share the good, you share the bad. You talk about where you may have made a mistake. You talk about where you've pivoted. I didn't start with accessibility as my North Star. Really, it was about partnership and people. I sidestepped into accessibility. I found it along the way, but I have brought my entire audience along for the ride. So I think being an authentic human goes a very long way. It helps you create those connections. And three, you don't get what you don't ask for. If
Uh,
you don't ask for those referrals, if you don't tell people that you would love it if they would tell their friends, if you don't go above and beyond and just put it out into the universe that you're looking for more work or thinking about making a change, it won't come true. I'm not saying that you have to manifest it because that's definitely not my vibe, but you don't get what you don't ask for.
yeah, that's very powerful. And I've had actually agencies before sort of being like, yeah, I know I could potentially tap into, I just don't know how to approach the situation
Mm.
with the
Ask.
client. And that's a great advice, especially for those people there.
Yeah.
Just ask, like, come on, just I
Ask.
know it
What's the
might
worst
be,
that's going to
um,
happen?
yeah, they're gonna say no.
Right. If that's the worst that's going to happen,
Yeah, come on.
you ask.
Yeah, and obviously they're working with you for a reason, so clearly you're doing good work. So if you want to accelerate the message, then what's the harm in that? Especially if, like you
Exactly.
said, you're authentic. So it's important those three steps are actually together, not just,
Yeah.
just one of them.
Yeah. And like you said, it shows when you're passionate. When
Yeah,
you're just phoning it in, people can tell. But when you truly believe in what you're doing, you glow.
yeah.
And that goes a really long way.
I wonder if you have any, or potentially previously had explored any partnership as well, because have spoken to marketing agents. They work with good impact, organizations too.
Mm.
I've never seen sort of accessibility and good impact. So have you ever had like partnerships with marketing agencies with
Not yet.
not
Not
yet?
yet. I am actually working on a little bit before that. I am working with a couple of universities to start talking about accessible design to incoming designers, as soon to be graduates, to really get across the point that accessibility is a mandatory. And that the earlier that you can start that thought process
Mhm.
in your career, the better. So I'm really trying to start those seeds with the students and help the next generation of designers and marketers and agency owners and freelancers be more passionate about this very subject and be more thoughtful when it comes to this accessibility barrier.
Yeah, look at yourself getting out there, on these speaker events. Well, that's great. That's amazing.
Yes. Yes.
Keep
So
going.
we're working on it. We're
Yeah,
working on it.
no.
More.
Rochelle, what is your goal for the business? What are you trying to achieve this year? Any milestones that you've set?
That's a great question. I have some secret milestones that I can't quite
Yeah.
share, but I would say that every win is a win. So, whether it be a new client that we're able to help make an impact, if it's a new organization that we're able to reach their audiences in a more streamlined and more systematic sort of way, or if it's even just keeping the clients that we have and helping them amplify their messages, I consider that all a win. Internally, we are definitely more focused on continuing our accessibility journey, training our individuals on new, bigger, better, more streamlined processes, and really making accessibility the cornerstone of everything that we do.
What you said streamlined process, so I'm guessing
Mm.
potentially you're looking at that technology and AI. Like, how exactly are you using AI specifically in your agency?
Yeah, so AI has definitely been helping me with some of my streamlining for my op-eds and finding ways of communicating a little bit clearer the messages around accessibility. It's also helping me stay up to date. I don't have as much time in my day to stay up to date on the latest laws, the latest findings, the latest lawsuits, the latest tea on what's going on.
Oh, right. That's way too much.
My chat GPT has been very active, giving me the
True.
latest and greatest. But also, we are utilizing some technology within our agency to help us streamline the accessibility process. Namely, we've been using our Made to Tag, which is I believe they're a German company, but Made to Tag has really helped us not just streamline, but truly make our accessibility way faster than it was
Okay.
before in a more meaningful sort of way. So, being able to use that to to its highest potential. And also working on internal SOPs. So, everybody's favorite subject, but being able to write down the process and really get clear on the accessibility have to have and nice to haves, and where one may conflict with another so that we can systematically and strategically think through some of these systems and talk to the client about, hey, if we were to do this, we may fall a little bit shorter here. How do you feel about alt tagging? Do you want to alt tag everything, or do you want to be a little bit more sparing? So these are definitely big conversations to have.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, SOPs are the number one important thing to document processes as well, isn't it? Many agencies say if they could go back and change one thing, it would be creating SOPs from the beginning. And there's a couple of frameworks for like entrepreneurs out there that you can actually simplify the SOPs as much as possible, because then you just streamline the whole thing and it becomes easier onboarding people as well, isn't it?
Exactly. I know our chief of staff is super into the SOP process, and she has been the driving force behind, we need to get this accessibility SOP up and running, because not only do we experience one of those hiccups with two of us being out of the office that are the primary accessibility advocates, but also like the more that our designers are involved in the final products, the more we need them to understand and utilize the entire process.
Rochelle, if people wanted to connect with you, find out
Yeah.
more information about what you're doing,
Yes.
check out any of the work, where should they find you?
So I am most active on LinkedIn. I want to say I post probably 3, 4 times a week. So we do talk a lot about accessibility. It's where I bring my clients along for the ride. So that is probably the best place to find me. It's my second home. But you can also find me on Instagram. I'm at Ratkaj. It's just my last name. That's a little bit more of my day-to-day life, a little bit more of my like fun around the house, a little bit more with those 50 states.
Wow, good. Yeah. I love the
Yeah.
integration there.
Yeah, so I'm an open book. And then, of course, our website showcases all of our amazing clients, the recent work that we're working on, and all of our awards and publications.
Amazing. Rochelle, thank you so much. All the links you mentioned, we'll make sure they're dropped down below so people can locate you easily.
Amazing.
For anyone watching, if you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe and let me know down below in the comments your favorite takeaway from Rochelle. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.